Hey there, hello there, Chef Cutter Diary, welcoming you to another um, in review via Wikipedia, and we're going to be talking about the 2026 Stanley Cup and NBA playoffs because those things are over. And just like the Super Bowl and last year's World Series, my prediction turned out to be toast. I've had four straight toast predictions, if you will. Because in 2025 of the World Series, I predicted the Blue Jays and they lost to the Dodgers. Should have won Game 6. Especially should have won Game 7. Up 3-0 and you choke? Can't do that. You should see Jeff Hoffman nowadays. I think that Game 7 blown save taking has really played with his mind. Um, well, of course, the Super Bowl, I picked the Pats to beat the Seahawks. Well, it was almost automatic, just like the Blue Jays, because I'm a Patriots fan. To be fair, if it was the Broncos against Seattle, I would have picked Seattle to win. Hold on. I would have actually picked Seattle to beat New England if I was a casual fan, but I'm not. With that actually is the second time in history I've had four miss consecutive big the big four chokes like baseball, basketball, football, and hockey. 2010, I actually had a six match. I started a six-match streak. I goofed up on this World Series picking the Rangers over the Giants. 2011, I missed the Super Bowl. That was when the Packers beat the Steelers for the Super Bowl. I was hoping for the Steelers to win Super Bowl number 7, and that's weird. Me being a Patriots fan. 2011, I picked the Canucks to beat the Bruins in the Stanley Cup Finals. We all know what happened. Game 7 choke job at home, and Vancouver rioted. And in 2011, Miami were going to be in the finals against um, Dallas. Dallas got revenge for 2006. And I got the World Series pick wrong as Texas blew a 3-2 series lead against the Cardinals. And I also missed the 2012 Super Bowl Patriots Giants. Well, I had to pick Patriots because they were my team. Fortunately, though, I got the NHL correct with the Kings over the Devils, and Miami won the NBA over Oklahoma City. So hopefully, I don't end up on a six match losing streak. I would have to miss the World Series and the Super Bowl for that to happen. Nevertheless, let's talk about the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs. And yes, I know all the complaints saying that why are you bitching ammonium grind? Well, when you look at it this way, it's my MO. Well, sports trivia and YouTube videos about sports are my MO, but also predictions because I used to be very good. And I'm like, I'm losing my touch. I'm 41. I shouldn't lose my touch till I'm 51, if anything. Nevertheless, Carolina won the Stanley Cup June 14th, 2026. Of course, June 14th is a famous day in New York Rangers history because 1994, that's when they ended their 54-year cup drought. Colorado were the President's Trophy winners for most points in the regular season, so obviously I thought maybe Colorado will break the President's Trophy jinx because no team who has won the President's Trophy for best regular season mark has won the Stanley Cup since Chicago in 2013. I think it's the longest drought ever, right? I think. I'm gonna have to take a look at the President's Trophy thing for just 1 second. Da, 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 da. Um, um, yeah. I have implications. They have the curse, the winners. So since 1986, well, let's see, since 1986, when they started it, 87, 89, 94, 99, 02, 08, 02 to 08, okay, so that's a 6 year route. 08 to 13, that's 5 years, and it's been 13. Frank. Buffalo ended their record 14-year playoff drought. And for everyone saying how shitty the Leafs playoff drought was in history, the Sabres missed the playoffs made the playoffs for the first time in 14 years. That's amazing. Anaheim made it to the playoffs for the first time since before COVID in 2018. And in their 8-year drought, the Leafs, the last time they missed the playoffs was 2016 when the Leafs sucked and still managed to get the number one draft pick and got Austin Matthews. And the Leafs are the number one draft pick, and there'll probably be no surprise next Friday Gavin McKenna's coming to town. Colorado and Tampa now have the longest playoff streak since 2018. And Florida failed to make the playoffs, two-time defending champs, becoming the first defending champ since the Kings in 2015 to do so, to fail to make the playoffs. I mean, anyway, Utah made it to, in their second season. They're an expansion team by proxy, even though they took over from Arizona. And for the first time since 1966, before the expansion of the NHL, when it was in the original six era, none of the New York area teams qualified for the playoffs, and that's New Jersey Islanders and Rangers. Only one team. Well, from 1967 to 1972, it was goal. That was fast. New Zealand just scored a goal. As I'm taping this, New Zealand's playing Iran, and they just scored in the 7th minute. Man, they'll probably do something Australia. They'll probably do what Australia did and win. Regardless of that, yeah. Yeah, the Rangers from 1967 to 1972 would have been the team to make the playoffs. The Islanders didn't start until 1972, and they first made the playoffs in 1975. And the Devils came into the league in 1982, coming over from Colorado. So, as you saw in that little sidebar, Carolina beat Vegas. Mitch Marner, former Leaf, who the Leafs traded away to Vegas for Nicholas Waugh, who then we got rid of to, I think, Philadelphia. Well, anyway, Mitch Marner, 29 points. Yeah, and Jordan Staal's the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. And Carolina became the first team to go 12-1 going into the final, and the fewest number of losses since the 76 Habs. It kind of was a little too easy for Carolina, although Montreal should have made it a little bit harder on them. Carolina finished 16-3, making them the fewest amount of losses for a Stanley Cup winner since the 1988 Edmonton Oilers. Now, of course, there's a little bias because they're thinking, well, there's been some teams who were 8-0. Yeah, but there were only 2 playoff rounds in the original 6. And before 1987, you had to win 15 games in the playoffs. The first round was best of 5, not best of 7. That was changed in 1987. We got 3 losses, yeah. So they tied the 1988 Edmonton Oilers for how good the Penguins teams are. Well, that they never did that. Anyway, the way it went, Buffalo won the Atlantic Division. Carolina won the Metro Division. Carolina had more points than Buffalo. That meant that Carolina had home ice in the Eastern playoffs if it got that far. Tampa and Montreal went 2-3, and Pittsburgh Philly went 2-3, meaning 3 versus 2 in each division meet each other, and then 2 wildcard teams. And for the East, it was Boston and Ottawa, the meaning that Ottawa would have to go to Carolina because the top wild card faces the lower of the 2 division winners, which is Buffalo. So Boston would play Buffalo, Ottawa would play Carolina. In the West, Colorado won the Central with 121 points. Vegas only had 95 points. To put this into perspective, every one of the 8 Eastern teams, including the Flyers and the Senators, had more points than Vegas did. Vegas 95 points, just nipped ahead of Edmonton and Anaheim in the Pacific. Colorado, or Dallas and Minnesota had to face each other in the internal rivalry because, Dallas got the team from Minnesota, 93. Edmonton and Anaheim face each other in the Pacific. In the wild card, Utah and Los Angeles. So the playoff bracket, Buffalo beat Boston in 6. Of course, I was fuming because I picked Boston because of their playoff expertise. No disrespect to Buffalo, but Boston could keep making the playoffs. Montreal, Tampa. I actually picked Tampa to beat Montreal. I'm like, Montreal might give it a shot, but I think Tampa's got Montreal's number in like 6 because Tampa had massive momentum. Well, I was proven wrong. Carolina swept Ottawa. I couldn't pick Ottawa. I'm like, it's no disrespect because I'm a Leaf fan, but the fact is that Carolina could do it. Ottawa, I don't think could have did it. Philly beating Pittsburgh in 6 games. I was fuming. I actually picked Pittsburgh because I'm like, this is the last ride for Crosby and Malkin. They're gonna do something. I know it. And then Montreal beat Buffalo in 7. I picked Montreal to beat Buffalo because I'm like, well, Buffalo will falter in the end, and Montreal's got the best idea. Boo, fuck you, FIFA president, Infantado or Infant. Anyway, Carolina swept Philly. There was no way I was going to pick Philly, and Carolina beat Montreal in 5. I was hoping for Montreal to beat Carolina. I was like, Carolina always chokes in the Eastern Finals. Guess not. In the West, Colorado swept LA cleanly. Minnesota shocked Dallas in 6, shocking me, of course. Vegas beat Utah in 6. I thought Utah could have pulled a game 7 out of their hat, but probably not. And Edmonton, Anaheim. I was actually shocked that Anaheim could take down Edmonton like that. Edmonton proving, as usual, that their one biggest problem is their goaltending. They don't have a consistent goaltender. Vegas beat Anaheim in the playoffs in 6 games. There was no way I was going to go against Vegas. Colorado, Minnesota. I was feeling Colorado, but I also felt if Minnesota can force a game 7 against Colorado, it'll give Colorado fits. After all, 2003 and 2014, look that up. Vegas swept Colorado in the playoffs and the conference finals, which shocked me, of course, because I'm like, how the hell did Colorado get swept by Vegas? And then Carolina beat Vegas in 6. So now, of course, the question on everyone's lips is, how many overtimes were there? It would be a miracle if they got to 20 overtimes because the record is 27. No, sorry, the record's 28 set in 1993 and 27 in 2016. No, 2017, sorry. I had 27 overtimes. Anyway, Boston went to overtime only once, game 5, when Boston prevented the Sabres from winning home, but Buffalo went into Boston, won 4-1. Only game 1 saw the home team win, if you must know. Tampa, Montreal, they went to 4 overtime games. The first 3 games of the series, and then game number 6 went to overtime. So that is overtime counters up to 5. If they went to 1 more overtime, well, all the games 4, 5, and 7 actually saw 1-goal games, and Montreal winning 2-1 despite scoring 9 shots on target and winning the game and set an NHL record for fewest shots on goal in a playoff win, much less a game 7 win. So yeah, all 7 games were 1-goal games. We could, if as I said, if a 5th game went to overtime, that would have tied the record for one playoff series set by the 1951 Stanley Cup Final between the Leafs and Habs, the 2012 first round between the Blackhawks and Coyotes, and the first round in 2017 between the Caps and the Leafs. Carolina Ottawa was a sweep. That only 1 game went to overtime, double overtime in game 2, so that makes 6. And all that. Pittsburgh Philly went to overtime in game 6. That was when the Flyers won the series. Colorado LA went to overtime in game 2, so that's 8 overtimes. Dallas and Minnesota went to 2 overtimes, 3 and 4 in Minnesota, splitting them, so that's 10. Minnesota got to the second round for the first time in 11 years, which was pretty impressive. So that's 10. Vegas, Utah forced it to 6. Vegas won 2 overtime games. Well, Utah was up 2 games to 1, so Vegas won 2 games in overtime, so that makes 12 overtime games. And then Edmonton, Anaheim had 1. That made 13 series, and the Ducks' first playoff series went in almost a decade, so that's 13. Buffalo, Montreal, game 7 went to overtime, and Montreal won, and I was happy as can be. Carolina and Philly, 2 games went to overtime, even though it was a sweep. So that made 16 overtime games, and it was actually the first. Carolina became the first team to go to have back-to-back sweeps in playoff series since 1992, with Chicago and Pittsburgh doing the same thing. Yep. Because Chicago had that 11-game winning streak in 1992, as did Pittsburgh, and as did Montreal in 1993. Chicago won 11 games, straight games. They were down 2-1 to the Blues in the first rounds. Won the 3 games against the Blues. Swept the Red Wings in the division final and swept the Oilers in the conference finals. But ironically, they got swept by the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins were down 2-1 to the Rangers, won the last 3 games of the series, swept Boston in the conference finals, and swept the Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup finals. And Montreal was 11 straight wins. Well, They were down 2-0 to Quebec. They swept them in 4 straight games after that. They swept Buffalo in the division finals and were up 3-0 on the Islanders for losing game 4. And Carolina became the first team since the '85 Oilers to start the playoffs 8-0. Of course, the '85 Oilers, the first round was best of 5, so they won 3 straight there, and then 4 straight in the division finals, and then they won game 1 in the conference finals. Colorado, Minnesota went game 5. The decider went to overtime. That was the only one overtime. Vegas, Anaheim went to overtime once in game 5, which Vegas did, so that's 18. Carolina, Montreal went to overtime twice, with Carolina being 2-0 in those overtimes, so that made 20. Colorado, Vegas was the first series of the 2026 playoffs to not have an overtime game, although game 4 was a 1-goal affair. The Golden Knights swept the Avalanche, and that was the first time since 2019 when Columbus swept Tampa that the President's Trophy winner were swept. And this was the only series not to have a game go overtime because the Stanley Cup Finals saw 2 games go overtime. So 22, not half bad, 22, but far from the record of the past 10 years. Mitch Marner, Jack Eichel, Jackson Blake were your top points getters. A lot of people, I would be shocked too about Jordan Stahl, but I mean, he was the captain. I would have given it to maybe Taylor Hall. Maybe it would have stuck to Edmonton fans. Marner, Jack Eichel. Well, of course, Buffalo fans hate the fact that Jack Eichel produced well after leaving Buffalo for Vegas. Freddie Anderson had the goals against it. He was 13-2, and then they dumped him off for Buzzy. Daniel Vladar and Vasilevsky by goals against. Yeah, Freddie won 13 games, and then he didn't win the last 3, but it worked out. So, of course, this is the last. There's a new 12-season contract next year in the NHL. I actually don't know what that's going to mean, in truth. So, I actually want to see what 26-27 is going to look like. The regular season is expected to start in September, and the playoffs are starting in April. So, Sportsnet's got the new deal and all that. There's a new collective bargaining agreement till 2030. And, oh, shit. This is going to be the season now to be have 84 games in a season for the first time since 1994. I think 19. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, was 1995 going to have 84 games if there was a full season? I think there was. But now the regular season expands to 84 games with 2 more divisional games. Okay, 2 more games within your own division. I like that. And additionally, as part of the new CBA, the 2027 season will see the end of emergency backup goals, or e-bugs, supplied by the home team. It said teams must hire their own emergency goaltender who will travel with the team and is permitted to have other non-player team duties. And each team's new e-bug must fill the following conditions. They must not have played professional hockey at any level in the previous 3 seasons. Cannot have played a single game in the NHL under a standard player contract. Cannot have played more than 80 professional games in their career and are not on any reserve lists of any NHL teams. Of course, Buffalo will host the draft. Chris Knobloch has gone as coach next year. Edmonton will have to hire a new one. Knobloch's done well, but unfortunately, goaltending has ruined him. DJ Smith was the interim head coach of the Kings. He's gone. Peter Lafayette is now going to LA. Craig Berube gone from Toronto, but we don't know who's taking him. Adam Foote is going to come. His only season in Vancouver, he won 25 games for them. They did not win the draft lottery. Anyway, Manny Malhotra, who's an icon for the Canucks and the New York Rangers, among others, will be coming in to coach. General managers, Chris McFarland stopped being Colorado's GM to become Nashville's new GM. Joe Sakic is back as GM. Barry Trotz was the general manager and all that. Well, he decided to retire as a GM and wait till a successor was found, and it was Chris McFarland. Devils fired Tom Fitzgerald, former Leaf and Panther, as their GM. Senny Mehta is coming in. St. Louis got rid of Doug Armstrong, who was the GM when the Blues won the Cup in 2019. Alex Steen is coming in to be GM. Well, he was a good player once he left the Leafs. Toronto will have John Chaika in as general manager. Of course, that's controversial because of why he was gone from GM as the Coyotes in 2020 because of some hanky panky. Vancouver's Patrick Alvin is gone. Ryan Johnson's the new GM. Calgary will play their last season at the Saddle Dome. This will be, and for the first time, and then next year in 2027, it'll be the first time since 1983 that the Flames will be playing outside the Saddle Dome. Seattle and Carolina are going to be in Helsinki. Chicago and Ottawa are going to play a few games in Dusseldorf. The Heritage Classic will be at Princess Auto Stadium, home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They'll have Winnipeg versus Montreal. All right. Winter Classic is at Rice Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City, Utah, Wells, Colorado. But that's for Christmas, for New Year's Eve, not New Year's Day. Well, mostly because New Year's Day is full of the college football playoff. And the Stadium Series, Arlington at AT&T Stadium, Dallas will host Vegas. That'll be interesting. All-Star Game is held at the near yeah. So this is the first season of a new Canadian broadcast rights deal. Most of the existing broadcast arrangements will remain in effect. Rogers stated that it would be flexing more regional games from its networks to national telecast. Rogers has not confirmed whether its relationships with CBC or TVA will continue. Of course, everyone knows Sportsnet has not renewed its agreement with Amazon Prime Video to stream Monday Night Hockey. And of course, the ESPN linear TV and all of that. ABC will air hockey Saturday at select weekends between January and April. The Stadium Series will be on ABC, so the game from Arlington will be on ABC. Cool. NHL Network. I hate the NHL Network thing because it's all American. Canada doesn't have a shot. Local Bell renewed its regional rights to Montreal. Bell actually cut back on RDS French language telecast for 45 games instead of 60. Fuck. All right, so that's that. Okay, now let's move to the NBA playoffs. Unstar that. All right, so it started April 18th, ended June 13th with the Knicks winning the championship for the first time in 53 years. It's kind of strange because you got the Rangers with their 54-year NHL drought, and now the Knicks with their 53-year drought and all that. And of course, if you're watching wrestling and all that, you think you know about Danhausen uncursing the Knicks. Well, let's hope Danhausen can uncurse the Rangers or the Leafs for that matter. Anyway, Oklahoma City were the top team in the West with 64 wins, and it looked good. Detroit actually were the top seed in the Eastern Conference. Indiana actually missed the playoffs. They were the defending Eastern finalists, but because of Tyrese Halliburton's ACL tear in Game 7 of the finals the previous year, everyone thought the Thunder and Spurs were the title favorites. The Eastern Conference saw Boston shocked by the Philadelphia 76ers. Of course they're shocked. I mean, Boston's a great team. They had Tatum and Brown. And, well, how could the Sixers do that? And the Pistons were actually down 3 games to 1 to Orlando. And everyone thought that the Pistons were just lucky to be the 1 seed. Well, they did it. Oklahoma City actually swept Phoenix and LA and all that. Yeah, the Knicks had not been to the NBA Finals since 1999, since the last millennium, or the last century, if you will. And the Knicks became the second team in NBA history after the 2017 Warriors to win 13 consecutive games and all that. And the NBA saw its 8th straight champion, 8 franchises, 8 years. And the Raptors are part of that. Jalen Brunson was named Finals MVP, 32.6 points per game. I mean, you really think could be anyone else? The Knicks actually were down by double digits every time. Every one of their 4 wins, they were down by double digits, including losing by 27 at halftime in game 4. And then game 5 was another one and all that. So yeah, so a lot of teams made the playoffs and all that. I don't want to get too far into it. Notable occurrences in the first round. Detroit actually lost 11 straight postseason games at home. You know, Thousand Almond Hills and Little Caesars, known as the Pizza Box. That streak was from 2008 till 2026, 18 years, and it was 11 game. Um, let's see here. The Rockets gave up a 6 point lead, 6+ point lead in the final 30 seconds, becoming the second team in the play-by-play era to do so. The Spurs in Game 4 against Portland were the first team to win by 15 or more, while trailing by 15 or more points. The Thunder swept the Suns and made sure that the last playoffs to have no sweeps was 1976. Um, anyway, the Knicks had a 47-point halftime lead against Atlanta, setting an NBA record for that mark. For the Celtics, Sixers, and subsequently Pistons Magic going to Game 7. It was the 27th straight playoffs to have a series go Game 7. 1999 was the last time there was no Game 7. So that's actually shocking. Um, Pistons were down by 24 to Orlando in Game 6 and came back to force Game 7. The first round saw 3 Game 7s, the most since 2014, who had 5. And the Raptors lost Game 7 on home turf to Brooklyn. Remember Kevin Durant? Not Kevin Durant. Paul Pierce's block. Or was it Kevin Garnett's block? Whoever. The Sixers became the 14th team in NBA history to overcome a 3-1 series lead deficit, but Detroit became number 15. And the Sixers were the first to come back from a 3-1 series deficit to win Game 7 on the road since the Cavs in 2016. The Pistons were actually down 3 games to 1 twice to the Magic. First time was 2003. In the Cavs Raptors series, the home team won all 7 games, the first time since 2024. Conference semifinals, Victor Wemby had 12 blocks to set the record for a playoff game, breaking Mark Eden of Utah, Hakeem Olajuwon of Houston, and Andrew Bynum of probably the Sixers. The Knicks became the first team to win 3 straight playoff games by at least 25 points when they won Game 1 against the Sixers. The Knicks Sixers had 25 lead changes, the most since Clippers Spurs Game 7 30 in 2015 with 31. The Knicks put up 25 3-pointers to win that thing and won their 7th consecutive playoff game for the first time in franchise history. Thunder became the 11th team to start the playoffs 8-0, and LeBron was swept for the 4th time. They did make a few moment of silence for Brendan Clark and Jason Collins. All that. The Pistons were actually 5-0 in Game 7s at home. Whether at the Pontiac Silverdome, the Palace of Auburn Hills, or Little Caesars Arena. And they lost Game 7 to, I believe, the Cavs. Yeah. And the Cavs overcame a 2-0 series deficit for the 4th time in franchise history. 2007, they were down 2-0 to the Pistons in the conference finals. I did not know that. I know they went to the finals and got butt whipped by San Antonio. 2016 NBA Finals when they were down 3-1 to Golden State. We all know that. In 2018 conference finals against Boston, which they lost the final to Golden State. Yeah, in the NBA Cup, who the fuck cares? The NHL doesn't do it in season tournament. Actually, the Thunder became the first defending champs since the Warriors in 2019 to actually advance to the conference finals. And the 2019 Warriors got to the finals and lost to my Raptors. The Spurs Thunder was the first playoff matchup to have 62 plus win teams on both sides since the 98 NBA Finals. I forgot Utah had 62 wins that year. The Spurs and Thunder game one went to double overtime first time since 2021. And the last time a Western Finals game went to double overtime was Suns Warriors 76. Yeah, the Knicks became the 10th team to win 10 plus straight games in a single playoff, with being the Cavs in Game 3. Yeah, and became the 14th. And then when the Knicks swept the Cavs, that's 11 straight wins, making the fourth team to hit 11 straight postseason wins. The 2017 Warriors won 15 in a row. They actually started out 15 and 0, lost game 4 of the NBA Finals, if I remember right, by one game 5. The 2001 Lakers actually started off 11 and 0 because the first round in 2001 was did Iran just score? Um, I think they did. Yep. It looked a little suspicious, but I think they just tied it. Yep. All right. Anyway, the 2001 LA Lakers, they won 11 straight because the first round was best of 5, not best of 7. So, yeah, everyone's looking around. They're not even showing the Iranian fans and all that. But yeah, the 2001 Lakers winning 11 straight. Yeah, they started at 11 and 0. They lost game 1 to the Sixers, and then AI with the crossover on Tyronn Lue, stepping over Tyronn Lue. 1999 Spurs winning 12 straight, and 1989 Lakers. They won 11 straight, but they didn't win the finals. They actually lost to the Pistons in 4 straight. Yeah, I think the Lakers started out 11 and 0 and got swept by the Pistons. For the first time since 2018, the Conference Western Finals went to a Game 7, making it the fifth Game 7 of the 2026 playoffs, tying the record in a single postseason set in 94, 14, and 16. Of course, if the NBA went to Game 7, that would have been the sixth. Yep. And the next, first time since 99, the Spurs, the last time they went to the finals was 2013. 2013 was it? No, or was it 2014? No, 2014, when they beat those pesky Miami Heat in revenge for 2013, and then that broke up the big three because LeBron went back to Cleveland. Bosh started having his injury problems, and D Wade ended up playing for the Bulls for a few years. The Knicks had a plus 271 point differential in 14 playoff games, so that was almost 20 points per game. They were short by 9 points on that mark. Highest scoring margin by any team entering the finals in NBA history. Not even LeBron's Cavs, not even Steph Curry's Golden State Warriors did that. Not even MJ's Bulls or Magic Johnson's Lakers did that. Um, the Spurs, 25.15 years old, the second youngest team to make the NBA Finals, trailing only the 77 Trailblazers, who were 25.02, average 25.02 years old. And they won the title. And the Thunder, 25.71, were second last. Yeah, the Knicks extended their winning streak to 12, which tied the 99 Spurs and 2017 Warriors. All that. And then they won their 13th straight game in game 2, tie the second longest streak. And the Knicks became only the third team in NBA Finals history to win the first 2 games on the road after the 93 Bulls and the 95 Rockets. That's right, because Charles Barkley and the Suns had more wins than the Bulls because they always do most wins in the regular season between the two teams. And the 95 Rockets, that was when Orlando and Nick Anderson had the choke job. And when the Spurs won game three on the road, it made only the second time that the road team won each of the first three games. 93 saw the Suns win game three. I think that was the triple overtime game, wasn't it? Anyway, yeah, the Knicks win over the Spurs, the largest comeback in NBA Finals history with 29 points, beating the Celtics Lakers mark from 2008 with 24 points. Uh, the Lakers only led the Knicks led by only 53.8 seconds, the second least amount of time in a finals win since the merger in '77, behind the Pacers' decimal 3 seconds in Game One of the 2025 Finals, because the Pacers never led in Game One of the Finals against the Thunder before Halliburton shot. The Knicks did it. They actually hold the record for longest period between two titles with 53 wins. The Bucks had 50 years between 1971 and 2021. And the Spurs became the first team since the '93 Suns to lose all their home games despite home court advantage. Yeah, the Knicks were the first team to win the NBA title, trailed by double digits in each four of their wins. Total plus minus Karl-Anthony Towns second. No, he broke the record for plus minus, beating Steph Curry's mark in 2017. The Knicks, their 14.9 points per margin of victory is the new NBA record set by the surpassing the 71 Bucks. And the Knicks point differential beat the 2017 Warriors. OG Anunoby had a playoffs record 67.2% effective field goal percentage. I know that. So yeah, they went through that playing games. Philly beat Orlando to be the 7th seed. Charlotte beat Miami in overtime to face Orlando, which Orlando crushed Charlotte to be the 8th seed. Phoenix lost to Portland 114-110. That meant Portland were the 7th seed. Golden State beat the Clippers in LA to face Phoenix, but then Phoenix beat them to be the 8th seed. A lot of things. It's like, well, kind of boring, but like media coverage, the 11-year deal with ESPN, NBC, and Amazon. Yeah, of course, the Raptors were allowed to broadcast their separate feeds and all that because of the Canadian thing. Reception in on April 26th, it was the highest since 1993 with 3.8 million people per game watching ESPN, ABC, NBC, Peacock, and Prime. And they said that it was the elimination of first round regional broadcasts and NBC taking over TNT's coverage. So yeah, we got that. The NBA season. All right, so what notes do we have for 26, 27? The NBA All Star Game is in Phoenix. The play-in tournament April 2007. The regular season starts in October. The draft will be at the Barclays Center next Tuesday and Wednesday. Coaching changes. The Bulls are going to need a new coach. Billy Donovan's gone. Jason Kidd's gone from Dallas. He's a Dallas icon. Doc Rivers left Milwaukee. I think he resigned. Yeah, Doc Rivers resigned. And Taylor Jenkins is coming in. Yeah, Billy Donovan stepped down. Jason Kidd mutually agreed to part ways. Orlando got rid of Jamal Mosley for Sean Sweeney. I think because of Mosley choking it. And then Mosley now is in New Orleans. International games, China will host Houston versus Dallas twice. And I think those I think those are preseason. Oh, that's preseason. My fault. Because I know Canada's got the thing. So yeah, international games. There are three cities that host. Mexico City will host Denver versus Indiana. Paris will host San Antonio, New Orleans because of Wemby, and Manchester will host San Antonio, New Orleans. So anyway, in the NBA Cup, the basic structure, all games except for the championship count towards the regular season standings. 6 pools, so 5 within their own conference, 3 pools per conference. Group games against each of the other teams in the pool, 2 at home, 2 on the road, will be held Fridays, November. Why am I doing this? Like, I will not support the NBA Cup until the NHL does the same shit, or just get rid of the NBA Cup. Does it? Does it matter? ESPN schedule NBC will have an opening night doubleheader, and then they'll have coast to coast Tuesday doubleheaders throughout the rest of the regular season. They also have games for Valentine's Day, Martin Luther King Day, and President's Day. Streaming postseason. Local, yeah, Kitchener. Yeah, Canada, we don't know much about. But do we really? So, anyway, basketball and hockey are done, and now I get to focus on the World Cup. I really do. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond, a dude.